He said we had to flee his mother's funeral. Then the FBI knocked. What I learned next shattered everything I believed about my marriage. We need to leave now. Those were the first words out of Trevor's mouth that morning. No good morning, no explanation, just panic bags flying, zippers closing. I stood frozen in our bedroom doorway in Portland, Oregon, still in my bathrobe, watching my husband toss clothes into a suitcase, like the house was on fire. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice trembling with disbelief. "Your mother's funeral is in 3 hours." Trevor didn't stop packing. His hands moved fast, too fast, trembling slightly as he tried to shove a hoodie into the overstuffed duffel. "Joanna, please," he said without looking at me. "I'll explain everything later. But we have to go. Now." "Explain what?" I snapped, stepping between him and the closet. "That you're abandoning your own mother's funeral. That you're leaving your grieving family behind without a word. Trevor, what is going on?" He finally stopped moving. His face was pale, and the shadows under his eyes looked darker than ever. He ran both hands through his hair, a gesture I'd learned meant he was spiraling. Then he whispered, "There are things about my family you don't know. Dark things. And if we stay for the funeral, they're going to come out." My skin prickled. I had been married to Trevor for a little over a year. We met in a downtown Portland coffee shop 3 years ago. He was charming, soft-spoken, an accountant at a mid-size firm. I was working as a marketing coordinator at Sunnindale Financial. It felt like fate. We'd built a quiet life together, cozy, predictable, or so I thought. But lately, things had been off. Paranoia, nightmares. He'd started checking the locks 3-4 times a night, refused to open the blinds, claimed it was about break-ins. But now it felt like the truth was bubbling up, and whatever it was, it terrified him. What kind of dark things, I asked, folding my arms tightly across my chest. "You owe me that much." He looked at me. Really looked at me. And for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes that didn't feel like anxiety. It felt like guilt. "I can't tell you here," he said, "but if we don't leave now, we might not get another chance." Something deep inside me turned cold. "You're not making any sense," I said. "You told me you were close with your mom, and now you won't even attend her funeral." His eyes flickered. Close. That's what he'd always said. But the more I thought about it, the more cracks I saw. Despite his claims, we rarely visited Patricia, and when we did, their conversations felt off, careful, filtered. She'd always been kind to me, sweet, even, but guarded. I'd once asked about Trevor's childhood, and she had smiled too tightly and changed the subject. I never saw any old family photos in her house, just one recent picture of Trevor on a beach alone. And then there were the nightmares. Trevor had them at least twice a week. He'd thrash in bed, mumble incoherently, mutter words like basement, sorry, and once. She deserved it. When I asked him the next morning, he'd always say he didn't remember, but now I was beginning to wonder if those nightmares weren't dreams at all, but memories. "Trevor," I said, my voice shaking, "I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what you're running from." Before he could respond, we heard the first slam of car doors outside. He rushed to the window and peeled back the curtain. His face went ghost white. "They're here," he whispered. I joined him at the window. 3 black sedans had pulled up outside our house. Men in dark suits stepped out, moving with the kind of practiced authority you see in movies. One of them held what looked like a warrant. "Federal agents," Trevor said, backing away. My heart slammed against my ribcage. "Trevor, what did you do?" He didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed my arm and yanked me toward the back of the house. "We need to leave through the alley." I pulled my arm back. "Not until you tell me the truth. Are you in trouble?" "Is this about taxes?" Fraud Trevor let out a bitter laugh. "Joanna, this is so much worse than taxes." And in that moment, I knew my life, the life I thought I understood, was about to explode. The banging on the front door grew louder. Federal Bureau of Investigation opened the door. Trevor was already at the back door, fumbling with the lock, the suitcase dragging behind him. I stood frozen in the kitchen, pulse hammering in my ears. "Joanna, please," he begged. "We don't have time. If we don't go now, we're both going down." Down for what I hissed. "What did you do, Trevor?" He stopped. Just for a second. Then with shaking hands, he opened the back door and looked at me with haunted eyes. My mother, she wasn't who you thought she was. The front door shook with another pound. I heard voices outside strategizing, moving around to the sides of the house. They were closing in. I grabbed my purse, heart pounding, not out of trust, but survival. If I was going to be dragged into this, I needed to know everything. We slipped through the neighbor's yard and into the alley where Trevor's old silver Corolla sat half hidden under a pine tree. He threw the suitcase into the back seat and climbed behind the wheel. I hesitated for half a second before getting in beside him. As we sped away, I looked back. The front door was being forced open. Black jackets poured into our living room. I had never felt so sick in my life. 20 minutes passed in silence, the tires humming as Trevor kept glancing at the rearview mirror like the devil himself was chasing him. Finally, I broke. "Start talking. Now." He didn't look at me as he spoke. My mom was involved in things. Bad things. Financial stuff. Fraud laundering, fake accounts. "That's what this is about?" I asked, gripping the edge of my seat. "Money laundering." "No. That's just part of it." He pulled into the cracked parking lot behind an abandoned warehouse and killed the engine. Then he looked at me, truly looked at me, and said the words that turned my blood to ice. "She was part of a trafficking ring." I stared at him. "A what?" "She trafficked people. Mostly girls, teenagers. She used her old teaching job to find them runaways kids from broken homes. Then she moved them across state lines. She had contacts, connections. It was all hidden behind legitimate businesses, consulting real estate charities. But it was a front. No, I whispered. "She volunteered at the library Trevor. She read books to kids. That's what made it so perfect," he said bitterly. "No one would ever suspect the sweet retired teacher. That's why she kept the house so modest. She didn't want attention." I covered my mouth, trying not to be sick. "She used her job to identify vulnerable girls." He nodded, tears rising in his eyes. "And I helped her. I couldn't breathe. I didn't want to," he rushed on. "But she had leverage over me, photos from when I was 15. Things I did, things I wish I could undo." "What kind of things?" I asked, though my voice barely made a sound. "She caught me with her business partner," he said, almost choking. "A man named Vincent Carbone. He was older, much older. He convinced me to do things. She caught us, took pictures, and she used those to control me for the next 12 years. I got out of the car and walked a few paces into the gravel, fighting nausea, rage, betrayal. Everything inside me screamed to run, but I needed answers, and I wasn't leaving without the whole truth. Trevor stayed in the car silent. Eventually, I turned back. "Why now? Why are the feds moving now?" "One of the girls escaped," he said. 3 weeks ago. She went to the FBI with names, dates, records. It was over the moment they verified anything. Patricia knew she was done, so she had a heart attack from the stress." He looked away. "She didn't have a heart attack." I stared. "She took pills, a whole bottle. She left a note. Said she couldn't face prison. I found it before I called 911. I destroyed the note. Told them she died naturally. Thought maybe the investigation would go away." My knees buckled and I sank onto a concrete slab by the warehouse wall. The weight of what I'd just heard was suffocating. He hadn't just been hiding something. He'd been actively covering up the death of a criminal mastermind and lying to the authorities. "You married me," I said through clenched teeth, "while you were working for a trafficking ring." "No." I stopped. "Mostly. After we met, I wanted out. But I still managed the money. That was all." I glared at him. "You think that makes it better?" He didn't answer. Then his phone buzzed. He looked down. His face went gray. "It's on the news," he said. "They're calling it one of the largest trafficking busts in Oregon history. My mom's name is everywhere." He looked up at me hollow. "They're calling her a monster." I stood slowly, my voice a whisper. "Then what does that make you?" Trevor didn't answer my question. He just sat there, hunched over the steering wheel, staring blankly at the cracked asphalt, like the answer might be buried beneath it. I leaned against the car door arms wrapped tightly around myself, as if I could physically keep the pieces of my world from shattering. I couldn't stop staring at the diamond on my finger, the ring Trevor had given me when he promised me forever. "How did you afford this?" I asked suddenly. He blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "The ring, the vacations, the house. Your salary never added up. You always brushed it off, said you were good with money, got bonuses, had savings. But you lied, didn't you?" He hesitated for a heartbeat too long. "Yes," he said finally. "I used laundered money. Offshore accounts, fake invoices, crypto transfers, stuff no one could trace. Patricia set up the system. It was airtight. $2 million worth of airtight." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "Where did you hear that, you told me?" "Just now, and you didn't deny it." He exhaled hard, then leaned back in his seat. "About $2 million over 5 years. My cut." I couldn't feel my legs. "You mean to tell me," I said, my voice low and sharp, "that for the last 3 years I've been living in a house funded by human trafficking money?" I told myself I was just managing the money, he said. "I never touched the girls, never even saw them." "That doesn't matter, Trevor. You were part of it. You profited off it." He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. "You lied to me every single day of our marriage. Every dinner, every vacation, every I love you, it was all built on blood money, on lives destroyed." Trevor looked away, his jaw clenched. I didn't know how to stop. I stared out the windshield, silent. The man sitting beside me was a stranger with dark secrets, a dangerous family, and a past that was crawling out of the grave. He turned the key, and the car rumbled back to life. "Where are we going?" I asked flatly. "There's a cabin up near Mount Hood," he said. "My family bought it years ago. It's remote, no cell service. We can lay low." You're safer with me," he insisted. "Vincent Carbone, my mother's old partner, he won't stop now that the investigation's gone public. He has people everywhere. He'll kill anyone who talks." "Are you saying I'm a target now?" He didn't answer. But he didn't have to. As we drove, I stared at the forest flashing past the windows, thinking of everything I was losing, my job, my reputation, my future, all because the man I trusted most had been living a lie. And then a sickening realization crept in. How many other people knew I asked? Trevor gripped the steering wheel tighter. My cousin Marcus helped with logistics. He arranged transport. My Uncle Donald was the one who handled business fronts and bribes. But Patricia never let anyone know the whole picture. She compartmentalized everything. So she was the mastermind. Trevor nodded. She recruited, managed, protected the network. She told me once that if she ever went down, she'd take everyone with her. That's probably why she killed herself. My stomach churned. Does anyone know I wasn't involved? He glanced at me, guilt written all over his face. "I never told them about you. Patricia knew, obviously. She vetted you when we started dating. But she liked you, said you were smart but quiet. Easy to keep out of things. I should be flattered." Trevor didn't respond. I turned away from him, tears burning behind my eyes. I wanted to scream, to run, to undo every moment I'd spent beside him. But instead, I started planning, not escape. Justice. The road narrowed into gravel as we turned off the main highway, winding through pine-dense hills. I didn't speak, neither did Trevor. The silence between us wasn't just tension, it was transformation. I was no longer the woman he married, and he had no idea. The cabin appeared suddenly through the trees like it had been waiting for us. Weathered wood, shuttered windows, no visible neighbors for miles. No power lines, no signal. just the hum of a quiet generator and the weight of secrets that had soaked into every log. "How long has this place been in your family?" I asked as we pulled up. Trevor shut off the engine. "Since I was a teenager. Patricia used it when things got risky. Said it was our last resort, our invisible zone." I stepped out of the car and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the elevation. "You mean she brought girls here, didn't she?" Trevor's mouth opened, then closed. "Sometimes, not for long, just layovers, before transfers." He looked nauseous, but I didn't care. Inside the cabin was basic a fireplace, 2 small bedrooms, a cramped kitchen with a propane stove. He moved around with unsettling familiarity, lighting lanterns, checking locks, rummaging through canned supplies like it was normal. I sat at the rickety wooden table watching him, studying him. When he finally sat down across from me, I spoke. "Are you sorry?" He blinked. "What for what you did? For what you allowed? Are you truly sorry, Trevor?" He looked down. "Every day. Every single day. I see their faces. Patricia never told us their real ages, but the youngest, she couldn't have been more than 14. I told myself I was just doing paperwork, but I knew. I always knew." His voice cracked, but I felt nothing. Not sympathy, not sadness, just cold resolve. My phone had no signal, but earlier I'd spotted something in the corner of the cabin, a landline, probably installed decades ago. Patricia had clearly prepared for every scenario. While Trevor made soup in the kitchen, I quietly slipped into the back bedroom and made the call. Bethany picked up on the 3rd ring. "Joanna." "Oh my God, are you okay? The FBI came to Mom and Dad's house. They're looking for you. I'm safe," I whispered. "But I need you to do something for me. No questions." "Okay, tell me. I want you to call the FBI tip line. Tell them I want to cooperate, that I can provide names, account numbers, safe house locations. But I want full immunity. I didn't know anything until this morning, but I've got details, offshore accounts, shell companies, and names Marcus Donald, Vincent Carbone." There was a long pause. "Joanna, what the hell did Trevor drag you into something evil?" I said. "But I'm done running, and I'm not going down with him." I hung up before she could say more. When I returned to the main room, Trevor was standing at the window, fingers twitching at the curtain edge. "I keep thinking I see headlights," he murmured. "You should get some rest," I said calmly. "We'll need a plan tomorrow." He nodded. "Good idea." But I already had a plan. The next morning, Trevor woke up to find me gone. On the table was a single piece of paper. My handwriting was neat, precise. "I've gone to do the right thing. Don't follow me." But I hadn't gone far. I was down the road, engine off, hidden behind a curve in the forest, waiting. At dawn, 3 black SUVs emerged through the trees. I stepped out and flagged them down, Agent Martinez leading the charge. "You ready?" she asked. I nodded. "He's inside, probably still in his pajamas." 10 minutes later, they surrounded the cabin. From the tree line, I watched as they kicked in the door. Trevor staggered out moments later, stunned arms raised. His face crumbled when he saw me standing beside Martinez. "Joanna!" He choked. "What have you done?" I didn't flinch. I stopped protecting a monster. They cuffed him, read his rights, found his laptop. Martinez grinned grimly when she opened it. Encrypted folders, offshore transfers, internal emails. This will blow the case wide open. As they loaded Trevor into the back of the SUV, he looked at me one last time. "They won't believe you didn't know," he said. "You're going down with me." But he was wrong. I had screenshots, messages, journal entries, voice memos, conversations with Bethany, proof that I'd questioned things, that I'd tried to uncover the truth. But more than that, I had the FBI on my side. I wasn't the villain in this story. I was the one who ended it. The courtroom was packed. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but that didn't stop the media frenzy from circling like vultures outside. News vans, flashing lights, protest signs, people shouting for justice, for answers, for blood. And I was the center of it all. 6 months had passed since the cabin. In that time, I had worked closely with the FBI, turning over everything: names, dates, passwords, ledgers, and every horrifying detail Trevor had confessed. I'd sat in hours of debriefing, signed dozens of sworn statements, and testified in front of grand juries. I wasn't just a witness. I was the key. The cooperation agreement my lawyer negotiated protected me fully immunity in exchange for full cooperation. I hadn't known what Trevor was doing, but once I did, I gave them everything. Trevor was facing life without the possibility of parole. His mother, Patricia, was already dead, but her legacy unraveled like a cancer. The FBI raids stretched across 5 states: Northern California, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, Oregon. They uncovered a sprawling network of businesses, safe houses, and front organizations, everything Patricia had spent 30 years building, and I had been married to her son. Trevor's cousin Marcus was found dead in his apartment, an apparent suicide. But those of us close to the case knew better. Vincent Carbone's people were still out there tying up loose ends. Uncle Donald pled guilty to conspiracy and money laundering. 25 years, no parole. And Carbone caught in a sting in a lakefront compound outside Eureka, California, living like royalty. He went down hard, but not before 3 more girls were found locked in the basement. 19 girls in total were rescued. 19 lives shattered and barely beginning to heal. I couldn't change the past, but I would never stop trying to honor their future. That's why 6 weeks before Trevor's trial began, I founded a nonprofit, Second Light, dedicated to the recovery, safety, and education of trafficking survivors. My first board member, a woman named Leah McKinley, sister of one of the rescued girls. She told me her sister used to be my barista at the downtown coffee shop I used to frequent. That stopped me cold. I had smiled at her, ordered my latte, walked out, never realizing her sister was locked away praying for escape. I started that morning crying in my car for 30 minutes, and then I went back to work. Trevor never looked at me during the trial, not once. He sat at the defense table in his dark suit, eyes hollow, hands folded, a mask of shame or guilt or fear. I didn't care anymore. When I took the stand and the prosecutor asked if I recognized the defendant, I didn't hesitate. Yes, that's my husband. And did he ever disclose to you the nature of his financial activity with his mother, Patricia Green? He did, I said clearly, but only after the FBI arrived at our door. That's when the truth began unraveling. I detailed everything: his offshore accounts, shell companies, the financial transfers disguised as consulting payments. I gave them timelines, passwords, correspondence. Voices in the courtroom murmured as I revealed just how methodical and organized Trevor had been. But the moment that broke everything, when the prosecutor played a voice memo from Trevor's laptop, an unsent message to Patricia. I can't do this anymore, Mom. The girls are getting younger. Carbone's losing control. If the feds find me, I'll take immunity. I swear, I'll talk. The courtroom went silent. Even Trevor closed his eyes. After 3 weeks, the jury took less than 2 hours to return a verdict. Guilty on all counts. I watched from the gallery as he was sentenced to life in federal prison. No parole, no appeals. The judge said his crimes showed a chilling willingness to trade human lives for personal comfort. And just like that, it was over. The reporters outside wanted a statement. My lawyer shielded me as we walked down the steps, but I stopped and turned. Trevor wasn't just my husband. He was my betrayer, I said calmly. But this is bigger than him, bigger than me. This is about the survivors, about justice, and about what happens when we stop ignoring red flags. I walked away before they could ask more. The day after Trevor's sentencing, I went back to the nonprofit. No cameras, no press, just me, Leah, and a few volunteers unloading donations into a converted warehouse that now served as the safe house for Second Light. We were painting walls, setting up beds, stocking the fridge, preparing for the first round of girls arriving from state care. Survivors, warriors. I didn't recognize the woman in the mirror anymore, and that was a good thing. The old me. She was buried somewhere between the first time Trevor lied about working late and the moment I watched him hauled away in cuffs. I had built a life on what I thought was love, but it had been silence, complicity, convenience. And now, every single day, I work to rebuild something better, something true. People always ask me how I didn't know, how I could sleep next to someone capable of such cruelty. But you'd be surprised what you ignore when the lies are wrapped in love, when the manipulation comes wearing a wedding band. Trevor made me question my instincts. Patricia made me question my place in their world. But in the end, I trusted the quiet voice inside me that said, "This is not normal. This is not love." And that voice saved me. Some say I betrayed my husband, but I didn't. He betrayed me long before the first knock on our door. I just finally stopped playing along. I don't think I'll ever fully heal from the things I learned in those 6 months. The faces of the victims, the money I'd unknowingly lived off of, the pain that lived right beneath my floorboards. But I also won't let that pain define me. I chose to speak, to fight, to drag the truth into the light, because silence only protects the guilty, and I've had enough of that to last me a lifetime. I still wear the ring sometimes not on my finger, but on a chain around my neck, not as a reminder of love, but of what I survived, of what I exposed, of who I became. So if you're watching this and your gut is whispering that something isn't right, listen. If someone you love is hiding behind a smile, a sweet story, ask questions. And if you find yourself in the wreckage like I did, get up, gather your truth, and light a match. Because sometimes the only way to move forward is to burn down the lies that kept you trapped. Have you ever ignored the red flags in someone you trusted? What made you finally open your eyes? Share your story in the comments. Your voice might be the one someone else needs to hear. Like, subscribe, and never forget your silence isn't loyalty when the truth is screaming to be heard.